Hey, Magic Weaver, welcome back to the Chaotic Cauldron. We are about to get into some magical lore I'm really excited about. But before we do that, I guess I should introduce ourselves, huh? Hey, I'm your host, Alyssa Lily.
I thought that's what you were doing. I'm Tara Webb. I thought like that.
Hey,
That's where the
that
little
was my
segue was
segue.
going.
No,
I don't know.
no, I'm just all over the place. I just wanted to pop in here because we haven't done this on our Chaotic Cauldron. If you love the magic that we're bringing here and the content we're creating, be sure to check out our Patreon. The link is in our YouTube bio. It's in all of our bios. It's everywhere. You can't
It's
miss it.
somewhere.
Yeah, you literally, if there's a link tree or a place somewhere, we have it. We would love to have you over there to support us and get some extra bonus content from us and, create some magic with us. It'll be a lot of fun. Love to see you over there.
You look so professional with your standing.
I know. I feel like I feel better. I have, so for those of you who don't know, I have a new standing desk and I feel more confident when I speak too.
And
This was just a good
the
idea.
crown behind you is actually like almost on your head too.
This beautiful thing that's never seen
Yeah.
because it was always too high.
Now everything's seen.
Yes.
Everything. So we're talking about mermaids.
And sirens and silkies.
And even others still that are from just different other like the kappa and like because Selkie is more native to a certain indigenous culture kind of thing.
Yes. Well, and this is very layered. This topic is very layered. We're not covering everything in this video because it's like the Fae. There are so
Yeah.
many layers and different origins and different translations and views. And I guess everything we talk about here is kind of like
Yeah,
that,
it
to be
is.
honest.
It's like this was one of those things that I was like, oh, I feel like we know a good kind of amount about, I mean, like we know a general good amount, if that makes sense. And then I was looking in my book, my trusty Encyclopedia of Spirits that we go to.
Referenced
Um,
every chaotic cauldron.
yeah, and this was just
It's
like,
so good.
well, look here, and then look here, and then look here. I was like, cool, I will do that. Side note, I feel like this crystal necklace that Alyssa got me like a year ago is very mermaid now. It used to be
Mhm.
like Norse, and it kind of still is, but I think because it feels more Atlantean.
It does. Doesn't it have a mermaid on the top?
Yeah,
It does. It does have
it
a mermaid.
does.
I'm pretty
But
sure.
I didn't place it with Atlantean until like we're talking about mermaids or like
Mm,
yeah. And then I have on just because I have to show, and Alyssa will show whenever they get theirs because that was their birthday present.
I'm excited.
Here's my amazing dragon mermaid like leggings. Just a
Oh, they
second.
have fins. It is
They have
freaking phenomenal.
like mine. I don't know if mine are fins or like I don't know. I don't know what it would be called because there's like a dragon, but they're still mermaid.
Oh,
But
wings.
Alyssa,
Yeah.
yeah, Alyssa has some coming because we're in a mermaid feel right now. And yes, Alyssa's showing the book that we both have as stickers, and it's gorgeous. If you need like a good
It
sticker book,
is. Oh, what's on the sticker
who
page?
who makes those, Alyssa?
Um, why doesn't it say? Should say. Castle Point Books is all it says.
I thought the author or the not the
It
author.
didn't
But,
say the author on it,
so yeah,
but
but
like all
I,
kinds
I
of.
have one that's like witchy. This one is called Atlantis, and it's just gorgeous.
I have one that's nature too. That's like
Nature's one you
plants and
have.
bees and
Mm-hmm.
bugs. Look
And
at
it's
that
just so
octopus.
beautiful. And see, it goes from like a realism kind of cutesy one, and then sometimes there's like a darker like look to them, just depending on um, kind of what
Yeah,
comes
like
up. Like
this.
like that.
Yeah.
That's stunning.
Hear that nice crunch
I
of opening a
did.
book? It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
The ASMR of the episode.
Anyways, now that we've like shown you all the fun things, let's actually get into talking about mermaids. So I wish we had somebody on here or like a question that we could pose the audience of like, what do you know about mermaids? So type it below. What do you
Before
actually
you
know?
listen to any
Yeah.
more, what do you know about mermaids and or sirens?
Yeah, because
Comment below.
I think it's interesting for us to like look at where we are and then we dive into, oh, I didn't know that, or that's really cool, or like that kind of thing. So we know that mermaids are just across the world in every culture, in every body of water. There's just something, right? Like even if it's like the Loch Ness monster, as like the
Well,
fairy
and there's
princess,
just so many,
just
even in like not even talking about lore, just the ocean in general, there's so much that's undiscovered.
yeah,
We don't even know what
they stopped
exists.
going and like searching for things because there's just so much there. Like, let's not search outer space yet. I'm good with just going back into the ocean because the ocean just has So,
Well, and I find it fascinating that we rather go to outer space than
I
search the
think
ocean.
I think because they found something they maybe didn't want to find in the ocean,
Mm.
like a massive beast or something like that. And
It's
because
like
I enjoy following like what's that word?
conspiracy
Conspiracy.
theory.
Yeah, I enjoy just like
Yeah.
listening to those. And they're talking about how, the world is warming up a bit more, a bit is
A
warming
lot.
up, right?
Yeah.
And so you see like these more creatures coming out, and you see like splashes, or you see how they did like these accidental bombings in the water for just training purposes. I mean, come on.
We're not dumb.
No. And so I think there's like stuff down that they were like, we can't, there's nothing we can do with this. We don't want to touch this. We're not going to go down there. We can't
Nope.
even go down there for like a certain amount, right? Like, it's only our machines that we create. So that's my thought on that, since you asked. You gave consent to asking when you started. Anyways, so they've excavated, archaeologists in the Middle East, 3,000-year-old bronze images of mermaids.
Wow.
And so to me, and I know Alyssa agrees on this, if there's folklore around it, if there's images around it, old images, ancient images, it's got to be
There's
true
got
in
to
some
be
form,
something.
right?
Yeah. That
It's
doesn't just come out of someone's ass.
no, it doesn't. Well, maybe, but it's still true.
Yeah. Somebody
Because
got really high once. But I mean, this is back
I
before
mean,
they
honestly,
had
that's how a lot of, I feel like, early shamans like really figured things out and connected too. Like that's how we
with plant
learned
medicine.
if
Yeah.
plants were like dangerous or not. I'm gonna eat this. Oh, I'm high. Oh, this one killed that person. Like that's how
Somebody
we
had to try it
learn.
once.
Yes. And so like I think of these huge stone statues almost. There's one of looks like a serpent slash dragon, and it's this statue, this rock formation that is natural, that looks like a serpent has been petrified, is the only word I can find. Yet how can the rock form it in like that precise, even with the snake head and the eyes and the scales all perfectly, like how can that be exact?
Mm.
There's only so many coincidences, I feel like.
Yeah.
So
So tell me again, where was the earliest found that you just said?
I don't know if it's the earliest, but archaeologists have found it in the Middle East, 3,000 year old, which I bet it goes
You
back farther than that.
said 3,000?
Yeah.
Wow, it's wild. Okay.
Yeah. um so in general, mermaids share the following traits and talents: prophecy, ability to grant wishes and fulfill petitions, which I actually didn't.
Say that one again.
The ability to grant wishes and fulfill petitions, which I don't really hear that with mermaids as much. The
I
power
hear
to
that with like
bestow.
the crossroads.
Yeah. And maybe it's like with, I think of like a sea witch or something.
Yeah.
So maybe the power to bestow or remove fertility, prosperity, and abundance. A volatile temperament to varying degrees. And to me, that just like yells misogynistic, because we
Yeah, I
all
feel
have
like a lot of
volatile
the, and this is
tempers.
something we talked about before we hopped on too, like how much of this has been warped by that point of view that has been so dominating for so long. And
Mm-hmm.
this really could have started as witchy, powerful women or
I
people.
mean, the first known written lore about it is by Hans Christensen with The Little
Mm.
Mermaid, or so it says. I bet you anything there's indigenous cultures that have it even further back, right? That we don't have
Mhm.
access to, where
It's
they
just
just
in a
have,
different, it's also a
and
different
they have,
interpretation of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they have their stories that's more narrative, like storytelling versus written. He might
Mhm.
have been the first one to write it. And even then, his was like a mix. And you know how Hans Christensen was with his fairy tales; they were very dark. And
Mhm. As
um,
are all fairy tales, let's be real.
well, because he wrote the majority of them. Him
Mhm.
and
The Brothers Grimm.
both of them wrote. I mean, they were very very dark. So in his thing, it even says that mermaids don't have tears, but apparently, like what you find on the in the sand are perceived as tears, like seashells and pearls and like that kind of thing, I think. Um, but mermaids are not inclined to turn the other cheek. They're vengeful if angered or wrong. wronged. I don't know. That's just what it says. They're
Or
skilled
do they just
healers.
set really good boundaries?
And also, they don't have to. I feel like with mythical creatures, other types of creatures, um, humans just messed with them. You know, if we look at Selkie, um, and that's going into taking the skin off of, you know, like being a seal and then being a shapeshifter into a person being able to walk kind of thing, they would steal the skin
Oh
and hide
yeah,
it. So
we
like,
experiment and
yes.
take apart and dissect.
So like, are they vengeful if angered or wronged, or are they just literally getting revenge because you wanted to study them and cage them up and that kind of thing?
Have them in a zoo.
Yeah. So not all mermaids are skilled healers, but a few are psychopomps, leading souls to their next realm. And so psychopomps are literally just those who guide others. Let me actually find the definition of that, which I didn't realize.
Psychopomps. Is that the ones from Homer's Odyssey? Is it that story you're talking about?
No, it's just in general. This is everywhere. The origin of it is
Okay.
everywhere. Spirits known as psychopomps, literally conductors of souls, serve as guides. Because you think about the Northern Lights, they talk about those being souls being, you know, guided to their next life or ancestors or something like that.
Oh my gosh, that's really beautiful
And
and
that you're
sad
actually
all
not
at the
supposed to
same
take
time.
pictures of them because you're taking pictures of souls and stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, so they travel back and forth between realms of death and life. They can come in any kind of form, depending on think of what you need or don't need. um, and it's every spirit tradition. They may be petitioned for mercy if death is prolonged and painful, like that kind of thing. So there are some mermaids who are that as well, and that could probably come from Greek of, you know, escorting them down to Persephone and that kind of thing, right?
Hmm. It sounds like mermaids, maybe mermaids and sirens are the same thing, but they have different talents. Like it's just different. Like we talked about with the Fae, it's just different.
Mm-hmm. I think mermaid is supposed to be like the um, general name,
Hmm.
just like a here's a title, a label on it, right?
Here's an umbrella term.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
then here we have sulkies and mermaids and sirens
mm-hmm.
and
So with the sirens, they were perceived. I don't think like there's really like a good and bad kind of thing with mermaids, and then sirens were perceived as dangerous whenever people started traveling the waters more so. And you definitely see this in the Odyssey and Iliad, and being called to their death, especially with depends on how you want to tell the story of Persephone being taken to the underworld, and
Mhm.
if Demeter punished those sirens who should have watched over her better. That's one side of it. Or and by punish, their wings were cut. They were essentially um, what's the word? They
I
had
don't know what you're looking
wings.
for.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where they were bird spirits who
Mm.
manifested as woman, part bird. And what
Reminds me of
distinguished
Odin and
them?
his ravens.
Mhm. What distinguished them from other bird-like spirits like the Lilith or the Harpies, now there's another one, Harpies,
Hmm.
I didn't think of them, is the power of their song to allure. So they were supposed to, their function was to escort the souls to the Queen of the Dead. That is their
It's
function now, supposedly, because they did not protect her.
and it's just interesting to see the crossover because with mermaids we think ocean, fishtail,
Mm-hmm.
half human, half fish essentially. And then with sirens, they're literally half bird,
Mm-hmm.
which is complete opposite.
And they say that maybe the siren song is meant for those who are already destined to death, anyways. Then they're not calling them to their death; they're just already there, and so they're like bringing them closer, kind of thing.
Or maybe even easing it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just not interpreting it that way.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello. Did you want to come say hi to everyone?
That was very cute.
You say hi.
Oh, yes.
That's Tara. Say bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye. You're good.
That was a very cute. Hello. She knew we were talking about mermaids and was like,
yes,
mermaid
she loves.
time.
Yes, she loves water. Both my babies are water babies.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking more about. Oh man, I lost my spot for somewhere else. So
The cuteness is distracting for sure.
yeah. Oh, because they didn't search harder for Persephone is what it was. They got punished because they didn't search hard enough in Demeter's mindset. Alternately, they begged for wings so they could fly and search better for her. In addition to attending Persephone, the sirens have also been associated with Hera, because apparently she held tiny sirens in her hands. Although sirens do not live in water, that I did not know.
I mean, that makes sense that they don't live in water. They're birds.
But I thought their wings had been cut.
I mean, birds who have clipped wings still don't go to the water.
Yeah. They are sea spirits, hence the latter reinterpretation as fish-tailed women. Myths or where Muses or Orpheus wrote them out may be interpreted by the victorial of terrestrial spirits over the aquatic. Their feet are taloned, sometimes with lion's paw at the end of each bird foot.
So feet with feet. Fascinating. My brain can't even fathom that.
Feet are taloned with lion's paw. So like the back end of it has like the line, and then it's like the paw with the extra claws, maybe?
Oh, I was picturing, so we have the talons, and then each talon has the lion's paw. So it was literally like at the end of their fingers, they have another hand, which would be kind of insane. I would love some extra arms, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so true sirens, the sirens of I don't know why it says true sirens, I don't like that, of classical Greek, because those are, apparently the only true ones.
Those are the only true ones.
Are related to harpies or Lilith, because of them being birds. So we should look into harpies later. Siren has evolved into a synonym for mermaid and fishwoman. The Spanish and French words for mermaid are sirena and siren, respectively.
So over the cultures, where did we make this crossover from bird to fish? Because we have, you said now, we have sirens, we have harpies, and then we have the mermaids and the selkies.
Yeah.
And like I said, this could just be like Fae, where there's just different variations. But it's just interesting.
Motley Crue is one of the most notoriously dangerous.
Well, hello.
I'm looking
notoriously dangerous rock bands.
This is the episode for interruptions.
Yes.
Because I'm looking at the part that I have on my phone that talk about the different ones, and of course it's an ad that just popped up. So I have
the everywhere.
They are. So Japan, it was the Nappa. I think it was Nappa. Oh, I just had it.
That's Kappa. Another thing too Kappa. Of just, what was it?
Kappa.
Kappa, which is really close to Kappa.
Yeah, they're more vampire-like, lustful, skilled creatures. Which is, you could see, because they're tied to vampires as well in some ways.
Yeah.
In India, the Naga, which I have actually heard about.
I have not.
But I've heard of that. They're half cobra and half human.
Ooh.
But they're mostly like divine beings in Hindu mythology.
Fascinating. Okay.
In Africa, it's the Mami Wata. And excuse me if I'm not pronouncing these correctly for anyone listening. And that's a water spirit celebrated across Africa.
See, this is what I mean. There cannot be this many coincidences of cultures across the world that have made up this mythical being that is similar across all of them. I don't know.
In Cameroon, there's the Jingu, mermaid-like creature with long hair and gap-toothed smile that lives in rivers.
Gap tooth smile. I love that.
The go-between for spirits and humans.
So a lot of parallels there too.
Oh, this is funny. I actually saw this in the book and I was going to look at it. Germany, it's Lorelei. Essentially created by the German writer. So it's a German woman who flings herself into the Rhine River after her lover cheated on her. There she is turned into a siren, the type of one who enchants people to their death. So I saw Lorelei here and I was like, oh, I was going to look in that like eventually kind of thing. And that's actually a woman goddess kind of thing. Europe, a Melusine, I think it's Melusine, the daughter of fairy who, after locking her father in a mountain, is condemned to half transform into a serpent once every week.
Wow. So we have serpents and birds and mermaids.
The Solomon Islands, Adaro, are water spirits and beliefs of the they possess gills and fins but resemble humans otherwise, except for the dolphin-like fin on their back.
Except for.
Thanks for that extra bit. They're usually male and described as mermen, actually.
Okay, that's a first, right? Because we usually see it depicted as women.
In Slavs, it's the Yodi Anoi, I think, a large green protective water deity who prevents rivers and swamps from becoming contaminated. In Greece, it's the Nereids. So like this would be words. Mermaid would be the overtitle of all of it. And then we see like even in Greek, it's the Nereids. And that's the nymph daughters of Nereus. And also the male sons would be called Tritons after Triton.
That makes sense.
Once again, Slavs, we have a Ruskolka, similar to the Greek sirens. And they're beautiful, that entice men. And then Celtic and Norse, we have Selkies. Which I actually thought Selkies would have been more in the Alaska, Antarctic area, like with the frozen waters and seals, but they're not, from what I see here. I mean, there's seals who become human and supposedly very common, but they don't have any, so they're not really mermaids in that sense. They can just transfer.
So just to clarify for anybody who doesn't know what a selkie is basically a seal that can literally full seal that can leave the water and transform into a human.
By transform, taking off their
skin.
Yeah.
Right?
Like stepping
and they keep their skin.
They do.
So it's like
they
interchange.
Don't just, like, put it back into water, like it has to be kept safe.
Why does that sound familiar? Because I don't think before looking into this I'd ever heard of selkies, but it just sounds very familiar for some reason.
I thought you said you heard. Oh no, you were talking about sirens.
I'd heard about sirens. Selkies I had never really heard of before. But the saving of the skin piece, I feel like that sounds familiar for some reason. I don't know if I've read a story or past life. Who knows?
And then in Australia, it's the Muja Wonk. I don't know how to pronounce that. A large, half-human, half-fish creature who's able to wreak havoc on ships. So that is a lot of different ones throughout the cultures, which I think is fascinating. It's not really just beautiful women with long tails and
sitting on rocks and relaxing,
like little seashells for their breasts and like that.
That's the pretty marketing version of mermaids.
It is.
Which, don't get me wrong, is still amazing, but not the whole story.
Going back to just mermaids, mermaids are associated with female sexuality and power. Cultures bearing ambivalence toward that power often portray the mermaids as dangerous and alluring. Now that's a fascinating, statement that if they don't like female power, if they like fight against it, it would be because they're dangerous. Mermaids eventually became symbols of lust and sin for medieval church. Well, yeah.
Because fuck any type of women in power.
Mm-hmm. They often appear holding or nursing babies similar to a Madonna with child.
Madonna?
Yeah, the Madonna.
What's that?
Mother Mary is called like the Madonna.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't know that either. Okay.
Attributes, as we know: fish, seashells, musical instruments, human babies, and especially combs and hand mirrors. I don't know why it says human babies. In English, comb is innocuous word with a single meaning. The Greek word for comb, signifies vulva and seashell. The Latin word for comb, pecten, also signifies vulva. So the comb is not just for combing hair; it's also signifying the woman empowerment of like who they are and just being in theirself. They connect with the moon. The amulet, coral, is traditionally perceived as the that's so cool. Okay, anyways, coral is traditionally perceived as the petrified menstrual blood of mermaids, and thus an exceptionally powerful protective charm. Do not go pick coral. It is live.
It is alive.
Do not. Which would make sense why it's alive, because it comes from mermaids. But literally, don't go pick coral, please, because you'll kill the beautiful coral that is needed.
Find it ethically sourced.
Yes, which means it has not just been like plucked, it probably has come off due to nature, right?
Yeah.
A list of mermaids may be found in the appendix. I'm not going through all the mermaids because I can only imagine. Oh, I didn't even see this. We didn't have this one mentioned. The Merrow are Irish mermaids.
Ooh.
And mermen too. Female merrows, I don't know. There's also in Gaelic the Murdahocha. On the other hand, display interest in human life and sometimes emerge from the water. Oh, the Merrow's little red hat distinguishes them from other mermaids. Wonder where they get a little red hat from.
That's cute.
She needs it to navigate between watery and terrestrial rims. Capture the hat and capture the Merrow. Of course. See? This is exactly
Don't
why...
capture. Don't capture.
Like,
leave alone.
It's like, see, legend describes men stealing her hat in order to marry the Merrow. Same thing with Selkie. Same thing, keeping the skin so that the Selkie couldn't go back to the water.
Let me force you into a marriage. This sounds great.
But women are the witches who, cast spells on men for that. Like...
How dare.
Merrows are reasonably gentle. As with the other kinds, they sit on rocks, sing alluringly, and create distractions, hence blame for shipwrecks. So, maybe that's also where it came from, is they sang for themselves. And men were so lustful, they drove their ships that way. And then it was perceived as sirens, and then they probably became vengeful, and some of them actually became sirens because, dude, we're done. You've hurt our sisters.
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. That happens now. If you wear clothes, you're blamed for being SA'd, to be PG about it. So it's like, what were you wearing? I'm like, what does it matter?
Oh, and those
I wasn't alluring you.
It's not art, but it's like an awareness place of like what people were wearing whenever they were. And there's even just like babies' clothes and things. Like it's just disgusting.
Yep.
So once again, blaming, and say this, not just women, AFABs, like for anyone, it's not just what they're wearing or who they are, and then like being themselves and like singing prettily because they are enjoying nature and just being themselves, and a ship coming by, just that kind of stuff. Marrows also have a tendency to manifest just before storms, so it can be perceived as a harbinger. Well, I want to go sit outside at a storm too, and like
I literally had my windows open yesterday.
Me too. If I could go sit on a rock in the middle of the ocean and have a hurricane,
and be safe to be able to sit there and just watch it, I would fucking do it in a heartbeat.
And see the massive storms and the water coming up. Yes, I would. Like that.
But then you're the harbinger.
The harbinger of death and evil things. No, that sounds so fantastic.
Maybe we're just dark.
Maybe. Oh, of course. An Irish legend suggests that in addition to banishing snakes, which were actually the pagans, they were not St. Patrick, they were not really snakes.
Yes, we don't celebrate
St.
St.
Patrick
Patrick's Day.
transformed pagan women into mermaids. Well, I'm glad. At least he transformed into mermaids versus killing them, if that's, true.
Well, it depends what the
But hold
transformation
on.
process is.
Hold on. If he transformed them, was he also a witch?
Mm.
Let's just, put that there for a little bit. Anywho, merfolk are shapeshifters, but they can also sprout legs and resemble human women. The tip-off of their true identity may be inexplicable water dripping from hair or clothing. So if you ever see someone with water dripping from their hair and clothing when they have clothes on, they're just a mermaid. They're a Mero.
Hair
They didn't come
flip.
from the beach. They didn't come from the pool. They're just Mero. But they also emerge in the form of a small hornless cattle.
I'm sorry?
Small hornless cattle.
Small hornless cattle. Okay.
Yeah.
So a calf?
Or even a cow. Or a...
Okay.
I don't know. It also apparently is connected to Morgan Le Fay. Which I'm curious why. Because Morgan Le Fay is supposed to be a witch. Well, depends on who you talk to. Morgan Le Fay... and they're connected with the Fae and Nixies.
So for anyone who doesn't know, who's Morgan Le Fay?
Although now most famous as King Arthur's half-sister.
Okay.
She is older than the Arthurian saga. One theory suggests that Morgan was originally a Celtic death goddess.
Oh, is this referring to Morgan the goddess then?
No.
Different Morgan. Okay.
This is Morgan Le Fay, who is with Arthur half-sister, older. I think technically would have taken the throne, and so apparently she died, or like that kind of thing.
Okay.
Or because she was a woman, maybe she wasn't allowed to take the throne. Who knows that how that would have been. But the reason is Morgan probably derives from the Welsh word sea, moor, and Celtic mermaids are known as Morgans in Ireland. So that's why she's connected to that, which is kind of cool. Now here's where you're coming in. So she is sometimes envisioned as a mermaid. She may be an aspect of the Celtic war goddess, the Morrigan. Because when you look at things like, what is that show I told you to watch?
There's a lot of those.
that the kids really liked, that was really good, that has, Troll Hunters.
Troll Hunters, yes. And
so Morgan Le Fay is a huge one with that, of like being this powerful witch. But a lot of times, even if you look into, Alyssa's never read this. Alyssa needs to go read this. Alyssa needs to go read this. Okay.
What do I need to read?
A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Okay.
It's a trilogy kind of in a book. It has a little last one at the end, and it has another one. And I will say it's smut. It ends up being smut.
I love me some good smut. Yes, please.
It's not super like intense as some smut can be, but it can be smut. And the first one is a take on Beauty and the Beast.
Fascinating. Okay.
And it's beautiful.
Does it have the same Stockholm syndrome kind of feel?
Yes, but not yet.
Okay.
Because the first one, the first one's not. The second one is where it's more Stockholm syndrome. Okay.
Okay.
And in the sense of like being claustrophobic and feeling the Stockholm syndrome. The first one is definitely falling in love and like that kind of thing. Obviously, and if I tell you anymore, you'll find out. And it's a huge like from 1 to 2 drastic shift. And so I don't want.
Okay. Don't talk no more. Speak no more.
Push on you to read. Anybody who has not read this, go read this. I say this.
Does it have a good audiobook?
Probably. It's so well known.
I might get me an audiobook smut.
Yes.
To listen to while I work.
You would listen to it so fast. It's so good. And it has a lot of good the author who wrote that also wrote another series that's really good, but it's much longer. And the way that she kind of just ties in things like the Midgard worm, I think is how you say it, which we've heard about like that, and that's in the first one. Midgard, or something like that worm. Morgan is also in the second, third, fourth, or second, third, or whatever, and you get to know her, and that's why this is brought up. And she is like the Morgan in this. And you get to see how she's portrayed as Fae and like all that kind of thing, as the harbinger of death and everything. And so you see the Morgan throughout multiple things, multiple cultures as well. And Celtic, but like the way that they've kind of taken her story. So Morgan Le Fay has powerful roots in Italy, where she's called Fata Morgana, which Fata is fairy. I did not know.
So we were right. There's a lot of fairy stuff here.
Yeah, because what is a Nixie? We only have so much time. Can you look up Nixie really quickly so I don't have to like miss my extra pages here that I'm trying to shuffle between?
Nixie, yes.
Ixie. Yeah, new elements were added because she basically didn't agree with how the church was doing things over pagan. Okay, and this is Morgan Le Fay, and so basically frustrated by the popularity of romances with not so hidden pagan symbols. Scribe determined to remake these romances as religious allegories, and in doing so, demonstrate the superiority of spirit over flesh, male over female. So new elements were added to her helping, like with Lancelot and the Lake, and quest for Holy Grail, and all that kind of stuff, right? Incest and demonic possession, with Morgan the Wicked Witch as Arthur's primary antagonist, which you see in Troll Hunters, the movie. I mean, the show, and like things like that. Is that he was a huge antagonist for her.
Okay.
Also envisioned as an avatar of Lilith, and we've already heard Lilith with where was Lilith? We connected Lilith with somebody. I don't remember who it was a second ago.
Sirens, right?
Yes, probably. I'm just going through so many things at the moment.
Yes. There's a lot here. And this is why we said in the beginning, we're only going to scratch the surface.
I'm literally just going to mermaids. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to look over here. Oh, look at that. There's over there. And like, it's just going.
Keeps going. So let's talk about Nixie folklore. So Nixie, also referred to as Nyx. I lost it. Under a variety of names, they are common to the stories of all Germanic peoples, although they are perhaps best known from Scandinavian folklore. The related English nucker was generally depicted as a worm or dragon, although more recent versions depicted the spirits in other forms. Their sex, bynames, and various transformations vary geographically. The German Nyx and his Scandinavian counterparts were male. The German Nixie was a female river mermaid.
Oh, okay. So, for example, the Morgan is from Ireland, and that's a powerful spirit of birth, death, sex, destruction, and fertility. Okay. She can be one spirit. She can be the triple goddess, like
Lilith, or Hecate, and
thank you, Hecate. And then Morgan may name a triad of distinct goddesses, usually Barba, Neman, and Morgan, but sometimes Maka is included. Once again, multiple things with that. I'm going to go back to, you got Nixie for me, Lorelai. I'm going to look really quickly before we hop off at the Kua. K. Let me go over to the Ks. Did we finish? I think we finished Mermaids. Oh, I have the other section too.
I love Tara with her books.
This is the kind of book that I love the idea of encyclopedias, but we don't really look through them anymore, right? And the way this one is done is, at first it can feel overwhelming, but the way it's done is, if you look at it, it like describes it and it says see also, and it goes through, and so it's very much of like, ooh, look at this.
Gotta flip here, gotta flip there, gotta flip here.
So Kua, king of Kana's shark's spirit, is an important Makua, an ancestral spirit. It's a red shark in the Hawaiian waters. Cool. I'm not going to go much deeper into that because there's other things.
The rabbit hole is endless.
It is. So let's go back really quickly to Siren, because this goes to La Sarine in Haiti. is a beautiful classical mermaid with long flowing hair. Her name literally means the mermaid, and she holds the mirror, is the mistress of mysticism.
Ooh.
I love that.
I love the is it alliteration?
The
MM,
mistress
yeah.
of mysticism. She appears in dreams, carrying people down to her kingdom beneath the sea, where she offers magical instruction. I want to be that. Like, that's so cool. The mistress of mysticism. Anyways,
Should work with her.
I know, right? She's the queen of the choir, which makes sense. Just looking at, like fairies, La Serene has a bit of reputation as a baby snatcher. Taking them to live with her in an undersea palace. I would like to think of this as she snatches babies from those that would be otherwise dead or harmed. I would like to see it that way instead, because someone who offers counsel in dreams, I just can't see it as evil. Maybe that's my own washing of like mystical things.
Well, and it's hard too, because we've talked about it a lot in this episode of the series. We talk about it a lot just generally of just like that could be misinterpreted to be evil. And I mean, snatching babies isn't great. I'm gonna be honest with you, but
and that's the thing with
there
fairies
could
too,
be
they're called changelings, but also like that's seen as evil.
Yeah,
I wonder if part of it, not saying fae are like all good, because once again, with everything, even with humans, there's good.
Well, it's not
bad,
black and white. It's not black. There's a whole.
And the reasons they do things. Maybe they were wronged forever ago and they're coming back for it now. Maybe they just want to cause harm. Yes, that's possible. That entirely. As with humans. Men.
As with yeah.
What is that? What is that? Not like, yes, man, like mankind, but like, what is that phrase? God doesn't scare me, it's man, or something like that.
I don't know what phrase you're talking about, but that makes sense.
It's like a reel that's going around of like, I'm not scared of God, I'm scared of man.
Truth.
You know? And so, yeah, I could definitely see like maybe some of that is from.
Well, and we also have to think magical creatures like this, their perspective and moral compass is going to be very differently designed than ours.
And also, like, I'm sure there is some of the, you wronged me, I'm going to take your baby. I'm sure there's some of that too.
I mean, fuck yeah, we wrong everything. Just as human beings.
Here's something that I looked for, because I'm writing my book on mermaids. Something I looked for was where the name Ursula came from for the sea witch.
Yes.
I'm naming my sea witch. And I could not find that anywhere except just like, where it was whatever. So here's interesting. And I love how the universe does this. Some legends suggest that La Sirene has a daughter named Ursule. An alternative spelling for something that'd be more Spanish or whatever the language is. Which is fascinating because you basically see, that Disney pulled Ursula from nowhere, kind of. I'm sure they pulled it from somewhere. I could never find back where from. And if that's kind of where it came from, that is fascinating to me. A sea witch from a goddess who's, giving advice. Like that's kind of what Ursula did.
Yeah.
Taught Ariel that, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
And in a very difficult way.
Yes.
She was also wronged by Triton as well. Apparently,
and was spiteful.
She was in his court, whether as a sister, a lover, or something, right? I'm just going through the image. Yeah, so that's just a lot of stuff we already kind of know about her. But then there's also Siren, which is Sirin.
Serene?
I guess so. And this is Russian. A spirit of beauty, joy, and happiness manifest as a bird with a woman's face.
Fascinating. Okay, so we're okay.
Back to the birds.
We're back into the birds.
Back into the birds. Which comes from the Greek word siren. She may be a siren who flew off to Russia and found new friends and myths. Or she flew off to Russia to search for Persephone. Let's just, take it that way. She's a psychopomp. She serenades the dead. Her songs are beautiful and compelling to those who hear her, are oblivious to everything else and die happily and peaceful, which is kind of nice. She does not kill randomly. She's an escort. So she also protects.
The Grimm.
Yeah. She also protects the living together with her sister spirit and alter ego, Alkonost. They were venerated together as spirits of good fortune and guardians of home. Post Christianity, all the sisters' positive aspects were assigned to her sister, where she's seen as the more negative of it. While siren association with death and night caused her to be considered an evil or at least inauspicious spirit.
Misunderstood.
Alkonost would be the one who's like the kind spirit of the sisters when they just, I think, were together. They basically just, did life together. So that is a lot of rabbit holes. I knew it was going to be rabbit holes, but that was more than I was expecting.
Yes. And let us know again below if there's any rabbit holes that you're diving further into. We'd love to hear more about it. Or maybe you know more about one of these. Like, let us know.
Yeah, and I'm curious what changed from what you did know. We had that question in the beginning. What changed? Because mine is like, my brain is just wide open to all the different facts I didn't realize about mermaids and sirens and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as I'm writing.
I think this has been my favorite episode to like research and dive into, but I also really love the ocean and mermaids and all these different things. I think the Fae is going to be another big one that we do. I think it's probably going to be a series.
That went off for so long.
Yes, because there's such a deep understanding. And I feel like,
because we even went to Morgan Le Fay, and that goes back to mermaids. Like, it's just, there's so many.
And it's so interconnected. And before we hop off, of course, if you love listening to our series, make sure to like, subscribe, all of those good things. We have Chaotic Cauldron episodes that go out once a month. We have podcast episodes that are on YouTube that go out once a week, and a lot more content that we're planning in the future as well as we continue to grow and expand. So we'd love to have you with us.